Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Taurus. I'm just going to take a moment to talk to you guys and just have a conversation. There's a situation in the home theater community that I find myself involved in, and it pertains to one of the businesses in the home theater community that may be offended by something they felt that I may have done. And what I wanted to do is I just wanted to give a bit of background about the situation and explain a little bit about what's happening and how this came to be. As you guys know, over the last, I'll say since the beginning of the year, I've been involved in this home theater group, and it's a fantastic group. These guys got some awesome theaters. And typically what happens is we inspire one another with some of the things that we actually have in our spaces. And we've been doing this probably since about mid or early February. And the way that they've inspired me is the first few times that I went over their theaters and heard some content played in their space, man, I was floored. Two of them have one 32-inch Ascendo subwoofer in the back of their room, and they've got two 21-inch subwoofers in the front of their room behind their front stage. It sounds freaking phenomenal. And there, like I said, there are two members of the actual movie group that have that. And the bass in the room was just tight and it was rocking. And don't get me wrong, my room at that time was no slouch. I had 8 SVS SB16 subwoofers, well, 2 SVS SB17s and 6 SVS SB16s in my theater, along with 14 10-inch triad subs strategically placed throughout the room, 6 behind the front wall, 6 in the ceiling, and 2 on the back wall. So there were 14 triad subs throughout the theater in addition to those flagship SVS subs. So my bass was no slouch. But what I didn't have were 2 subs in the back of the room. And they inspired me to want to do that. So at that time, I bought 2 more SVS SB16s to make my front stage 2 towers of those 16s. And then I put the SVS SB17s in the back of the room so that I could have that tactile bass going all throughout the room like they have. And it was a phenomenal addition to the room. But another way that they actually inspired me was every time you go to their theater, it's extremely quiet. And the reason it was so quiet is because they have their projectors outside of their theater. They've got rooms behind their theater where they're actually putting their projector in. So they're basically their projection rooms. One of them has a kind of a small lobby where his projector is actually located. And then he has an AC Infinity exhaust setup to exhaust the hot air from those fans from the projector out of the room into the attic. Now it's attached to his central HVAC system. So I don't believe he has an intake fan coming in because he's got AC cooling going on in that room. And the other person has a kind of a large closet in back of his theater where he's got his projector. And you step in their rooms and it is extremely quiet. And I aspire to achieve that too. So in about March, had to be March, maybe April sometime, I started to do more research into maybe looking at doing a hush box, doing something local, or maybe even reaching out to Mike Franks of Mike Franks Design Company to see what it would take for him to build a box for me. So I did. And we corresponded back and forth a little bit. It wasn't too long, but he explained to me some of the things that go on with him building a box for me. And I had some questions to make sure that the projector wasn't going to overheat or blow up inside of the box. And he also shared that, you know, if you need help with installation, he'd be willing to come out and assist with that. Just really cool. I really appreciated that. And the interaction was very friendly and very cool. And so he was at the top of my list for getting me a hush box so that I could keep that room quiet. Well, around that same time, I'm a federal employee. We were going through a lot in the federal government. You had people being laid off and losing their jobs left and right. You had the hiring freeze going on, so you couldn't bring more people in. People couldn't leave one place and go someplace else because maybe they heard that they were going to lose their position here. They probably could apply at another federal agency over here. They couldn't do that. So it was a really stressful time, and we were losing people in our office as well. And there was also the threat that I could have lost my job too. In addition to that, we had the whole federal workers going back to in-person work going on too. So for 5 years, federal workers were teleworking, and now we actually had to come back into the office. So that was a little stressful too. There was just a lot going on. So I had to put the idea for the hush box on hold while we were dealing with all of that, because every day was stressful. And what I'd do is, at the end of the day, end of the work day, I'd go home, I'd sit in my theater, and I'd just sit there and think about some of the other things that I would like to do in the space, since I had all of this time on my hand, and it was such a stress reliever for me to do that. The last episode of the show actually ran through some of those upgrades and things that I actually wanted to do in the space. I wanted to build some subwoofer stands, right? Some boxes to take the front towers off of the floor. I wanted to build some custom grills for the towers too, just to conceal them a little bit more up front in the front stage. And then I wanted to build a subwoofer box for the rear subwoofers as well to get those off of the floor. And all of that would help improve resonance in the room so that it could be a much tighter bass experience and more tactile bass throughout for that reason. There was another thing that I wanted to do too, and we're still actually waiting to do that project as well. But that was something that was on my mind to do too, in addition to doing the hush box. So once things calmed down a little bit and I started to be able to really think about other things, I reached out to a couple of carpenters, a couple of contractors, to see if they'd be willing to assist me with that particular project. Building the subwoofer boxes, the custom grill, and then the ceiling cloud, or the ceiling panels that I eventually want to set up in the room to cover the subs and the speakers that are in the ceiling. But I need to have access to them in order to work on them if I need to. So it's really just pulling them down, not taking them all the way off, just kind of pulling them down and then having access to all of those speakers and subs in the ceiling. And like I said, that project is still in the works. Actually, we haven't started that one just yet, but that's the next one that we're looking to do. And more than likely, it's going to be early next year when we get that going. So what I did is I reached out to a couple of contractors, like I said, a couple of carpenters, to see who would be willing to assist me with that and what it would take to get that done. Met with about 3 of them, and all of them basically stated the same thing. There was a running theme about having to come back to the house and take specific measurements when they had a prototype come through, see if that would work to make sure the measurements were just right on. And when they looked at the hush box, there's some uniqueness going on around the hush box because of the way that the electrical is there, as well as the 3D diffuser panels that I have there too. So there was going to be quite a few things that they needed to do, and they probably would have needed access to the house a little bit to make sure they got everything right. So I considered that, and then I considered the interaction that I actually had with Mike Franks of Mike Franks Design Company about building the hush box. But then once I actually looked at the multitude and the magnitude of the projects in totality that I wanted to do, it just made sense for me to have those projects be done locally. So that way I could control some of the work that was being done. And then those fellas had access to be able to do the work that they needed to do in order to get me exact measurements on what was being created. Now, here's where the issue came in. So once I actually had everything done, I posted on social media the hush box, as well as all of the other projects that I had completed up to that point. And this is about a week and a half ago. And Mike got wind of it, and Mike got offended that I created a hush box in a very similar design to his. And he felt that I reached out to him just to take those ideas and create that box. And that was absolutely not the case. Now, when I found out about him being offended by the box that I had created, I reached out to him. I contacted him through Facebook Messenger, which is how we communicated originally, to let him know that, hey, man, I apologize for whatever you may be upset about, and I never intended to offend you. That was really not my intent. Can we speak? I didn't hear from him. So then what I did, because I did post those images on my social media, on my Facebook page, I decided to go ahead and put a public apology out to him there as well. So I put a public apology out to him, explaining to him I did not mean to offend. Whatever I may have done, I want to make sure that you understand that I do apologize for it. Now, when I give out an apology, it's not about me. So when I apologize, I don't include the whys, the buts, or the howevers. It is a sincere and genuine apology for how that particular person is feeling at that particular time. And then I leave an avenue for them to reach out to me if they want to hear the whys and maybe the buts and get a little more explanation of why things may have ended up the way that it did. And I never heard from him. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But I at least wanted to put that out there to him, that I understand that he feels slighted in some way. So after I sent out the apology message, what this is just to explain why the situation ended up the way that it did, why I decided not to go the direction of choosing Mike. And it had nothing to do with being nefarious or having any ill intent. At the time I reached out to him, that was a genuine inquiry with the potential of possibly building the box for me. But like I said, with the multitude of projects, with the magnitude of the projects that I was actually doing in that room, it just made sense to do it locally. So that's all this episode is. It's just me explaining what that situation was about and apologizing to Mike. Maybe if I'd communicated better to him, maybe this situation wouldn't have happened. But Mike's design for his box, it's a fantastic design. So when I was actually having the box built, the base foundation was inspired by Mike's box. Now, it wasn't a carbon copy because Mike has trade secrets to his box, which is why it's so elegant and it's so ready when somebody reaches out to him to have a box built. So there was no way that I was actually going to achieve what Mike had achieved with what he'd done. He'd done months and maybe even years of research on the box. I just wanted something decent for my room that covered the sound and didn't blow my box up, didn't blow my projector up. That's all I was asking for. And the gentleman that actually helped me build the Hush box, he's not a home theater guy. You wouldn't believe how much material we went through in order to finally get where we are. It took us 4 months to put that box together. Mike does that in half the time. He's already got his R&D done, his research done. It's an eloquent and it's a ready solution, ready to go. So I wasn't trying to produce a carbon copy of Mike's box. It is inspired by his box as well as other ideas that I found throughout my research and some things that I wanted specifically for access myself on that box. So this is just to say that, Mike, I do apologize for maybe not communicating better with you to let you know what I was planning to do, but I did not contact you to take your ideas and then use them at that particular time. That was not my intent. It was a genuine interaction. But I am happy with the box that I have. It is nowhere near as elegant or eloquent as what you can create. And one of the reasons that I actually did not mention Mike Franks when I did the walkthrough of my theater on the last episode is because he might not have wanted his name associated with something that is not affiliated with him. And then that's not as eloquent as something that he would actually build and design. And on top of that, I didn't want to promote or perpetuate building a box like I did because it was a lot of dang work. And we went through a lot of material and a lot of prototypes in order to get to where we were. So those were the reasons why the walkthrough was the way that it was. But once again, I just did not want it out there that I was trying to just contact somebody and take their ideas and utilize it for my own nefarious purposes. It's just not the way that I operate. I'm not built that way. And when I went over to his page to put the public apology on his page, some of the things that were said by some of his followers and even by him in the replies, it was kind of disturbing to me. I will agree. I will tell you that. But he's just venting because he feels slighted and he's got an IP that he's got to protect, and I get it. And there's no hard feelings or there's no foul on my end because I'm not the one that feels offended. But this, as I stated, was just to explain some of the things that had gone on in the home theater community. And the last thing that I'll say is he shared it on a group page, a home theater group page that apparently I'm no longer affiliated with. So I couldn't actually post, put a reply such as this on that post. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, to let the home theater community know that I'm a fan of this community. I want to see everyone that is doing something positive in this community succeed. All of the influencers that put together home theater content, I am a big fan of them all. No ill will whatsoever. There's some folks that kind of feel that some influencers are trying to sell products and maybe not be as genuine as maybe they feel they should be. But the truth of the matter is, it's up to us as home theater consumers and as home theater enthusiasts ourselves to do the research to find out if that's going to work for us. Right? These influencers are doing us a favor by even introducing the product to us. So once it's been introduced to us, it may solve a problem, or it may enhance your theater in some way that you may not have known about had they not shared that information about it. So for that reason, I am a big fan of all of the home theater influencers and even those that are just making videos about their own spaces. This is a fantastic time. When I was building my theater, there was none of this out there. Who knows? Maybe I would have gone a different direction with my theater if there was as much content as there is right now when I was getting ready to do mine. Very happy and proud of what I built. Don't get me wrong. Mine is fantastic, especially now after a lot of the upgrades. But these influencers are doing us a favor, guys, by putting out this content, even if you feel maybe they're trying to sell us something. Do the research to find out if it's going to work for you directly. But that's all I wanted to share, guys. Mike, like I said, no hard feelings. I apologize if I offended you in any way that was not my intent. I didn't contact you to take your ideas. I was a genuine inquiry with no nefarious or ill intent when I reached out to you. Things just happened once I actually looked at the multitude and the magnitude of all of the work that I was going to do with this upgrade. It just made sense for me to do it locally. That's all. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to share. Thank you guys for listening in. All right, bye-bye.